My name is George Mahashe. The work is called Mafadi and it is part of the Derrida Contemporary Art Biennale 2026. The work I'm presenting is called Camera Obscura number 3, Mafadi. My journey begins with a trip to visit my great-grandmother, who told me all sorts of stories about my history, stories that were not in the history books. At the same time, being the child I am, I Googled each and every one of them and realized there was a lot of information that was there, but nobody was bringing to the fore. I then spent a lot of time looking at archives, anthropological archives, missionary archives, but also started traveling the world. And then eventually I started becoming very disillusioned with photography. With the idea of the document, with how reliable these things that we rely on for information were. And then I started spending a lot of my time asking myself what types of documents are more useful for telling my own specific history. It started with dreams, and then I moved on to the camera obscura, which for me was a good parallel to my experience of dreaming. And then I started working on prototype pavilions. This particular work looks at Mafadi. Mafadi is the technical name for salt, but at the same time, it is the history of how my people come to be in the area we currently live in. And for me, I think that type of material became the bridge I was looking for. I was able to trace particular lineages of history that spoke specifically to me and my culture. So from that point of view, I understood that the archive is not just the written, but also concepts that we take for granted that circulate in the everyday. Mafadi drew my attention to women's work, particularly the type of cleanliness that goes with it. Mafadi, being salt, is something that is used in all sorts of ways. You know, when you have a new house, you sprinkle salt all over the house to reset the context. When you have bad dreams, you put salt in different places. It has many functions. So Mafadi, or salt in particular, became a process of understanding the limits of what I'm able to research. An exercise in a form of collaboration I have not been able to do before. This process led to many conversations. So for me, I think this artwork raised the question of balance. We have forgotten that some of the archives require us to, work in a balanced form. And I think that's the biggest lesson that the quest for salt, the quest for white gold, the quest for Mafadi has been. The artwork itself is composed of a pavilion that is a particular type of space. It is specifically designed to set your body in a particular way. It is composed of multiple camera obscura images, which are also meant to draw your attention to the multiplicity of ideas. And at the same time, it is also shielded with salt, both in liquid and crystal form. How do you transmit, how do you port ideas that have been around for a very long time? How do you move an ancestral archive to a contemporary archive has been a particular focus. But most importantly, how do you work through and in concert with others? So I think for me, it sits at a crossroads. It is a place where knowledge sits. And if you pause, perhaps you will gain and perhaps you will leave something behind.